Today, we're looking at a magenta ink by Monteverde Napa Burgundy. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. There's timestamps down below so that if you are only interested in certain parts, you can skip around, but if you've got the time, please check out the entire video. Also, you can follow me over on Instagram, and if you like fountain pen ink reviews, I would invite you to subscribe. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Italics Chaplin's Tankard oblique italic nib to write for the day and to take my notes for this video. This first writing sample is done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper in order to have some kind of standardization to look at. There's additional writing samples later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X 450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X 750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, some very nice peppering of shading throughout, 4 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, not as dark as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen. The shading is fantastic here. It's the best on the page. 7 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both far left to far right do show some color variation, and we definitely get it up here. How about Tomoe River? If I can pick it up. No bleeding, a very minor Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It is showing some shading going on. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, very few spots, but there are spots of shading. The X in Fox, the K in Quick, there's a couple of them out there. 8 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, not as dark as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen. Again, there's spots of shading. Look at the word fox, look at the word brown. It's definitely there. Not very stand out, but it's there. 17 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both do show some color variation left to right, and we do get it up in the writing. Rhodia, with no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, and it gives us some decent shading. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, some nice peppering of darker letters in there. 5 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, just a hair lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, some very nice shading, and 9 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both left to right do show us some good color variation, and we get it up here in the writing. Nice. I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see that there is a kind of gray line inside the purple on the bottom, and that purple pushes its way up very lightly to a nice red on top. Now the one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes, and that gray is a little bit darker, but that purple is more staying in the line, really bonding with the filter paper, giving us an idea that it might be a little resistant. The red pushes its way up, saying it's not going to hang around for anything. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, the lowercase h has a blowout from the red. It makes me worry about using it in a note-taking situation if I have to highlight. Water is reactivating and lifting the red, but not all of the purple. There's a little bit of the purpley gray still there. Now, water's all that I needed to get this out of my pen. I didn't have to go as far as pen flush. If you did, you can see that the pen flush is starting to break up the gray and the purple that's left there. You're starting to see the white of the paper come through on the right side of it. So pen flush is all that you would need if water wasn't enough. 1/3 bleach solution does completely remove it from the paper, but you're not going to need it to get it out of your pen. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with a realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. I'm also linking a video that shows how I do my testing and my calculations. Monteverde's Napa Burgundy has a viscosity of 2.33, making it normal. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average those, and what I found is the average dry time is 17 seconds, with a realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Monteverde's Napa Burgundy has an average dry time of 8 seconds, making this a very fast drying ink. Instead of finding inks that look like Monteverde's Napa Burgundy, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I wanted a nice blue-black. I wanted one named blue-black. I chose Robert Oster's blue-black. The second writing sample is done on Northbooks, Moji, and a composition notebook like you would use in science class. Here we're looking at Northbooks paper. With no bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 1 second to dry, showing you this is a very absorbent paper. Medium is a little bit darker than the extra fine, nowhere near as dark as the stub. With no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, still 1 second to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine showing us some color variation, the medium shows us none, but we got none in the writing. Well, what about Moji paper? I'm glad you asked, because that was the next one. It had no bleeding, it had no ghosting. The 1.1 had no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, some very nice peppering of shading throughout, 6 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, a lot more of that peppered shading throughout with 8 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the medium's not really showing the color variation. The extra fine is, but it is definitely showing up in the writing. What about a cheaper paper like, what was this? Composition notebook. Well, we get no bleeding. We do get plenty of ghosting. This is a very thin paper. The medium at the top has no feather. No, my bad. Look at the word burgundy. There's a ton of tiny little feathers going on there. That's barely noticeable. No spread, halo sheen, no shade. Extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the medium with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 1 second to dry. The scrubby shows no color variation, and we didn't get any here, and that is all that I have for the writing samples. So what do I think of Monteverde's Napa Burgundy? This ink gives a lot of tone variation depending on the pen you put it into, but it also gives a lot of shading, and I've really enjoyed using it. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? I found a very dry pen made it look a bit kind of like a pink that I didn't care for, and a very wet pen made it look much more red. But a medium flow was just right. Perfect. Medium flow, medium nib, great color, great writing experience. I do new ink reviews every single day, so if you're new here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.